Welcome back. There is no sugarcoating it for the White House or Democrats. President Biden's political standing is vulnerable. Hard stop, even inside his own party. According to a recent poll from CNN, nearly 7 in 10 Democrats say the party should nominate someone else in 2024, largely, it seems, over one issue, concerns about his age. For this Sunday's Meet the Press, I sat down with Governor Gavin Newsom of California. He's, of course, a rising national figure in his party. And he's got his own political ambitions. He's not shy about that. We've talked about the future of the Democratic Party, whether Democrats have a plan B if Biden decides during the holidays not to seek a second term. Here's a quick part of that conversation. Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
Well, I think the vice president is naturally one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect, but we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
But you hear these calls privately. What do you tell these donors who are wallowing in this?
Time to move on. Let's go.
And am I supposed to interpret that comment about the vice president, that if for some reason the president chose not to run at this point,
well, that's the
everybody rallies around her?
It's the Biden-Harris administration. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned.
Yeah,
maybe I'm a little old-fashioned about presidents and vice presidents. I was a lieutenant governor, so I'm a little subjective.
It's your relationship with the vice president.
We knew each other before we were both in politics. The day I got sworn in as mayor, walked across the street. She got sworn in as district attorney. Extraordinarily close working relationship, including her time in the Senate.
So you can't imagine ever having to run against each other?
Of course not. By definition, it won't happen. But I've said that 1,000 times. We privately continue to maintain a very good relationship, interpersonal, just how you doing, checking in. It's been a challenging few years with COVID, and we've had the opportunity to sit down, have lunch together in the White House, spend time talking about important things.
So nobody's upset?
She's
She's not upset that you're going to debate Ron DeSantis?
Maybe. Apparently someone in her office is, because I read some off-the-record quotes. I wish I knew who that was, but I don't hear it from her. And I'm certainly not hearing it from the White House itself.
That's just a small part of my conversation. I spoke to Governor Newsom about the challenge by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to Biden. And we're going to get to that in a moment, because that ended up being very personal. And it surprised me, and it will surprise you in a few minutes. But joining me now on this panel is some longtime friends of this show. Susan Page, the Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. Cornell Belcher, Democratic pollster and NBC News political analyst and Republican strategist. Brad Todd. No, we're not related, but for the last time I'll say it. But so what? We've been brothers in arms at times. Susan, let me start with that. Look, I did the interview. I have my own impressions. What are your impressions?
That is a man who is accepting the political reality that even if there's concern about Biden, they need Biden to run because of the mess that will ensue if Biden doesn't run, because he's not the only guy in the Democratic Party who would be interested in getting the presidential nomination. And Kamala Harris is maybe kind of teed up for that, as he said, but that is not a done deal. The party can avoid that by Biden staying in the race. And by the way, there's no sign that he's not going to do that.
You know, Cornell, it was interesting to me, though, that I had somebody posit this to me, that, sometimes your best time is not the most convenient time for the party, right? A lot of people told Barack Obama, no. Go become governor of Illinois, and we'll see you in 2012 or 2016, right? People told Bill Clinton not to run in 92.
That's right.
H.W. Bush is unbeatable. Well, Bill Bradley took that advice. Dick Gephardt took that advice. And, they never got to the White House. I've had somebody make the case that Gavin Newsom, it's going to be too crowded for him in 28, that actually it might be this would be his best shot.
Well, it's not going to be his best shot against a sitting incumbent.
No, and that's the issue. It's the sitting incumbent.
And by the way, I mean, I understand our infatuation with this story, but President Biden is going to run for reelect. He's geared up to do it. All signs are is going to do it. And look, all this bemoaning from the left. Look, as someone who's lived their entire their life on the left, it's like herding cats, right? I heard the same conversation about Barack Obama before his reelect. Oh, Barack Obama is weak. 2010, he's gonna lose us more. There were op-eds that said Barack Obama literally should not run for reelection, coming from the left. So I'm kind of used to this from the left, but he'll be fine.
It's interesting. He really is embracing this idea that he and DeSantis are doing what his political hero, Bobby Kennedy Sr., I'm gonna get to that in a minute, and Ronald Reagan did back in the day. They debated each other like this national. That moment could change things.
For sure it could. You know, and Joe Biden's running as long as he's physically able to run, but he might not be physically able to run.
And I always say this, they're going to have another family conversation around the holidays. It's inevitable. Lots of families do that. So who knows?
And you can't also expect Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of the largest state, one of the brightest stars in his party, to look at polls like this week where we saw in CNN's poll that said most Democrats don't even think Joe Biden should run for re-election. So he can't not be watching that.
There is somebody obviously running against Joe Biden right now, and it's Bobby Kennedy Jr. And I knew that he had some, and I was very curious what he thought of Bobby Kennedy Jr. in this race. And he was pretty candid about his relationship with him. Take a listen.
You have a relationship with his son?
We have a very close one for decades.
And then?
Obviously, points of view that have diverged pretty significantly and consequentially.
Did you try to encourage him not to run?
No, I would never do that. Look, I revere his family broadly. I've gotten to know a lot of the family members. Bobby Jr. and he was, I'll be fully candid, he was really one of my great inspirations on the environment. Junior. Yeah. No one better on the stump. In fact, it comes back. He is the old stump. He uses it
I see
today.
it, right.
It's exactly what he was saying 20 years ago. And it's evocative. It's a spiritual frame. It's beautiful. It's profound. It's consequential in terms of reaching out to the other side. So there's that aspects I hold on to. Then he loses me on many others, including some personal shots he took around vaccines and suggesting somehow that I got ill. There was a lot of very curious things where I knew the spectrum, that he was sort of veering off on the spectrum.
Much
his
as
sight was
I gotta
veering
think
off.
this personally just bothers you.
It
What's happened with
disappointed.
him? It's like losing a friend, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's a reverential aspect to it. Of course, we disagree on Sirhan's release as well, and many different things. So look, I wish him only the best. I mean that. I have great respect for him and his kids and his wife. But boy, his politics has shifted, and I just don't buy it. When I'm seeing her watching him on Tucker and watching him on all these Bannon and everything else.
He's being used?
He's smart enough not to be used, but he knows what he's doing, and he's being used. Both and.
Interesting.
Both and, of course. But I think the utility's wearing off a little bit. You can only show up on those same shows so many times, and I think he needs a second act if he's going to take on the president. And I have no worry about the president's success in this primary.
You know, Susan, I've been waiting to hear from the Kennedy acolytes about how this has to just personally, and that was the most candid I've heard from anybody talking about. There's pain in some Democratic circles over this.
You know, I'm going to be perfectly candid with you, Chuck.
That drives me crazy. I've had interviews do that all the time. You're like, how am I supposed to take that? There's always part of it. Can I stop the interview? Apparently, we haven't been doing the candid parts.
Obviously, the Kennedy family has a special position in American politics, especially for Democrats. But you know what's worse for Democrats than Biden's age? It's third-party candidates. It's challengers. It's no labels. It's Cornell West. That really has the potential to take a close race and tip it, and that is a dangerous thing.
What do you make of why the Bannon types are just been like they seem to be almost gaming the Kennedy thing, and he plays right into it.
Well, the Republican coalition has changed some. A lot of blue-collar folks who were Democrats and grew up in Democrat households their whole life were Kennedy Democrats, and now they're in the Republican coalition.
Yeah.
There's a little of that. There's a little of that. And I also think that, look, we came through COVID, and he was on the right side of skepticism of public health.
Even for weird reasons?
Right, for differing reasons. But I think that alone is enough. And a critic of Biden's is an ally to any Republican.
Interesting. What'd you make of that?
That was some of the nicest things that any Democrat has said about RFK.
It felt like a personal friend. Yeah, it feels like they've been betrayed.
It was very personal. And by the way, at some point when it's probably conducive, I've got a feeling that some of the Kennedys are going to come out and strongly and say something, but it's not going to be right now. Look, but Susan's absolutely right. This is 2016. This is how 2016 happens again, right? Yeah. We have back-to-back performance. We know what Donald Trump's ceiling is. We do. We've seen it in several performances. Right. This is how 2016 happens again, because if you look at those voters that are hanging out there for West and hanging out there for RFK Jr., they are a lot more in line with Biden than they are with Trump.
The big news today surprised all of us, including you. We have Nancy Pelosi's biographer with us, Susan Page, and you confessed you would not, if you were to ask, well, what's she doing today, you would have assumed announcing her retirement.
I heard she was going to make some news, and I called my office and said, I think Nancy Pelosi is retiring. We better get ginned up on our, appreciation of her career.
And what happened here?
And she's sticking around.
Oh,
well,
you know her better than any of us at this table.
Obviously, she loves the House. She loves politics. She's a crucial part. She raises more money than anybody. She gives advice to Hakeem Jeffries and others but only when they ask for it. And I think she's not quite ready to go.
Does this just put with the Feinstein situation, Cornell, it just seemed, I'll be honest, I was shocked. I was in the middle of doing my affiliate promotions. I have a lot of California, because I have Newsom this week, a lot of California affiliates are all going, and I'm like, I just didn't think she would. I think it sends an awkward message.
I will say this. I don't think anyone, and there's been a lot of conversations about age with Minority Leader McConnell and Feinstein. I don't think anyone questions that Nancy Pelosi is as sharp as a whip. And by the way, we're very thankful that she was in fact leader during Trump times, because she stood up to him in ways that I don't think anyone on our Democratic bench, and I love our Democratic bench, could have stood up to Donald Trump.
Let me get on my hobby horse here, which is the whole point of a successful democracy is no one is irreplaceable. And I say this as somebody who's, look, it's always hardest to let go at the very end. All right? I'm not going to lie to you, okay? You like sit there, oh, no, I understand it, but if we ever operate in a situation where someone's not irreplaceable, that's no longer a democracy.
Well,
and whether it's McConnell or Pelosi here.
I think a lot of swing voters look at this, will look at Washington right now and say, how come there's so many people with an 8 in their age up there? Yeah. But as I will tell you, as a Republican ad maker who's linked a lot of Democrats to Nancy Pelosi, I'm very grateful that she's going to stick around.
You want to continue to use her?
Correct. As long as she's more relevant for the next 2 years, that's even better for Republicans.
And that's why I like our chances, by the way.
This wasn't an accident that I had 3 of you on here. There's a good, smart group of people in Washington. We've all sort of grown up together. Hotline, all those days. So it's the joy of my life for doing these panels.
Good sailing.
All right?
Check.
Good sailing.
All right.
And thank you.
Appreciate it.
Fair winds.
Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.